In this video today, I'm going to teach you guys the best mining guide for Palworld. By the end of this guide, you will know everything there is to know about mining, and it'll set you up for your entire Palworld playthrough. My name's Mogul, let's do this. Right when you start off in Palworld, you'll already have access to the stone pickaxe and the primitive workbench, which is where you will make your tools. Once you hit level 11, you will have access to the next level, the metal pickaxe. A little bit after that, at level 34, you will gain access to the refined metal pickaxe. As you get the stronger pickaxes, the durability goes up and the power increases tremendously. Now you might be thinking, but Mogul, why do I even need to mine at all? To which I would say, mining is one of the most important aspects in all of Palworld. You're going to need stone, Paldium fragments, ore, coal, sulfur, and pure quartz throughout different stages of your journey. But don't worry, I'll teach you the perfect mining spots for all of these later in the video, so stay tuned for that section. As you can see, you'll be making a vast majority of your gear, tools, equipment, and pal spheres with these different materials. Now let's break down each material in a little bit more detail. Stones and Paldium fragments are going to be your primary resource in the beginning to early stages of the mid-game. They'll also be your most plentiful resource out in the world, but if you do need, you can make this crusher available at level 8 in order to turn your excess stone into Paldium fragments. It takes about 5 stone for 1 fragment. All this machine takes is just a water pal to come over and water it. It'll automatically do it for you. In addition, you also get this stone mine for your base here that is available at level 7. Your pals will automatically continuously mine this stone, and if you have transport pals, it'll automatically put it into a chest as well. This is a very excellent passive way to just keep stacking up your stone because you're going to need a ton of it. Next up is ore, which is what you're going to be using a lot of in the mid to late game. The reason you need a ton of ore is also because of these ingots. On top of needing the ore, you also need to smelt down these bars at these furnaces in your base. Luckily, pals with the kindling ability are able to do this automatically for you while you're doing other tasks. Unlike with stone, ore and ingots is a very limited resource. It's going to be a lot tougher. It's going to be more of a bottleneck for your adventure in Palworld, but not for you because you chose to stick to this guide and you're going to be well ahead of the curve. The next resource is coal, and it's going to be your primary resource for your late to end game. As a quick note, any of the resources mentioned in this video are also available in dungeons and caves, so be on the lookout for them in those as well. You will also unlock the ability to have refined ingots, which takes both ore and coal. As usual though, your kindling pals will just be able to do that automatically. Using ore and coal and ingots, you can also have these assembly lines, production lines, and sphere assembly lines to make your handiwork go even faster in your base. Note that just like mining, certain pals will make this go faster as well. The last two obtainable resources are sulfur and pure quartz. These two resources don't take as much quantity as the others, but they are still important in their own way. Sulfur, which is found primarily in the desert and volcano regions, is primarily used for gunpowder, which makes the ammunition for your high-powered end-game weapons. Pure quartz, which is primarily found in the ice region at the top of the map, is primarily used for circuit boards, which is an end-game material. Now let's discuss the primary spots to get all of these resources in the most efficient way possible. Each resource has very good spots to free mine as well as set up a base to auto farm the resource. Starting with ore, the first great spot we have is the Fort Ruin spot at 155-394. This spot hosts 7 total ore veins and is really good for just solo mining. It's kind of tight, so it's not the best spot for an auto base. Here's the closest teleport on the map. My personal favorite and best spot for ore, in my opinion, is the Desolate Church. This was actually where I had my mining base for the longest time. And don't worry, in this next section we will demonstrate how to make the best possible, most efficient mining base possible. So stay tuned for that. If you're looking for a base that only does ore though, this is the best spot in Palworld. It boasts 9 total ore veins, and it's a nice flat open area that the pals can easily move around in. Our last ore spot we're going to mention is by the small settlement, specifically at 11, -523. There's a lot of decent places to put your base here because there is so many nice clearings, but this spot has 7 total ore veins. These are the spots that I would recommend for anybody to have the best ore setup for your entire playthrough. Next up, let's talk about coal, which is going to be your primary mid-game to late-game resource. There's around 7 really good coal spots, but I'm going to show you all the best 3 in my opinion. A really good collection of coal rocks can be found in the Anubis Desert though, so that's where we're going for our first spot. Note that these rocks are a little bit scattered, so it's not very base friendly, but it's a really good spot for solo mining like we discussed before. In total, there's about 7 coal rocks at -96, -120. This next spot's a little bit more later in the game, but it's a good spot for solo mining, and it has a skill tree. It's also right next to a teleport, and it looks super cool with this oasis water right here. It's got the 5 coal rocks right here together, but it also has a few more scattered around the area. And the place where this is located, in Mount Obsidian, also has really cool pals that you can go around catching that are a little bit more uncommon than normal. Finally, let's talk about my favorite mining spot in the entire game, and it's where my current base is located. At 189 -39, which is east of the sealed realm of the Guardian, you will find this amazing spot that has both ore and coal, at least 7 of each. It's also a really big open area, which is what we want for a base, and it's up really high, so it's safe from a lot of raids. I highly recommend that you set up your base here once you start needing coal, and you shouldn't have to worry about these 2 resources ever again. Next up on the list, we have sulfur. Like mentioned before, this material is going to be primarily used for your gunpowder and endgame weapons ammo. Come to this spot on the map and go to -495 and -511. You will need heat resistance, and this isn't particularly the best spot for a base, as most sulfur spots are more slated for solo mining. However, if you do find you want to do more of a weapon-oriented playthrough, any of these could be used as like a little small sulfur base. Our second sulfur spot is at the foot of the volcano, -378, -503 specifically. This is the most scattered spot we've talked about for any of the resources so far, but it does host 8 total sulfur rocks. This last sulfur spot is pretty interesting because while it only has 4 overworld nodes, it also has 2 to 4 sulfur nodes inside of a cave. Come to this spot on the map, specifically -355, -410, and you should be able to see all of the sulfur rocks and the cave entrance. What's also cool about this spot is since it's in the midpoint of Mount Obsidian, there's a lot of cool volcanic pals to catch here. You will need a decent amount of pure quartz for the end game, but luckily a lot of the veins are really condensed and close by to each other, so it makes for a really good base. First, come to the Unthawable Lake teleport, -199, -249 is where we are headed. This great spot hosts a lot of pure quartz rocks, but it does require cold resistance. For all of these pure quartz bases, we actually have a lot of cool pals to catch too, literally. Of course, keeping in the beautiful mountains, our next spot is another great one because it also has a skill tree in addition to the pure quartz veins. -134, -575 is our intended target. My favorite pure quartz spot though is at -256, -396 in the absolute zero area of the Astral Mountains. As you can see, there's a fair number of pure quartz veins here, as well as it's very centrally located, so it's a lot easier, a lot closer to get around the different places in the Ice Mountains. Now that you know all of the best spots for every resource in the game, let's talk about how to build an easy, maintainable, efficient farm base. Now let's talk about how to make an amazing mining base that can easily automatically farm your resources, using my current ore and coal base as an example. The first thing you're going to need for all of the pals that are working on your base is a replenishable food source. In the beginning, you should definitely use red berries because you'll have a bunch of those, they're easy to maintain. But once you get to mid and later game, you're going to want to switch over to better foods like pancakes, salads, pizza, or jam-filled buns. As you get stronger pals, like in this base we have the Dig Toys and Reptyros, and they require require a lot more food in order to keep working. So I'm actually currently swapped over to salads for all of my bases in my current playthrough. Another thing you're going to want to do is put your chest right next to your PAL box wherever you decide to put your PAL box, because when you're heavy, you move really slow, and ore and coal is extremely heavy. This is going to save you a lot of transport time between your ore base and whatever main base you have in the long run. The next thing we have to worry about is sanity percentage for our pals. This is kept high by keeping them fed. Straw pal beds are just totally fine. You don't need any more fancy than that, as well as the hot tubs that they use in order to recover. If a pal's sanity meter gets too low, there's a bunch of ailments they can come down with that'll prevent them from working, or they'll just downright refuse to work. They can start getting sprains and colds and going insane, stress eating, overeating. All of that stuff is possible if you don't keep that sanity high. Now for the breakdown of what pals you want in the base, you're going to want a good mixture of mining pals. It's going to be your biggest bulk, watering pals, planting pals, gathering pals, and transport pals if you want to automatically put it into that chest that you made earlier. It's also going to heavily depend on how strong of pals you need. For instance, in my current base, since I'm working on salads, I need a lot more planting, watering, and gathering, so I opted to go for Broncherry instead of a lot of lower level pals that may only have level 1 or 2 planting, whereas Broncherry has 3. If you want to manually transport all of the ore that gets mined by your mining pals, you can just do it yourself, but I do like having transport pals to do it automatically, even though they usually can't keep up until the higher transport levels. In order of importance though, start with your mining pals. They're the most important things on a mining base, obviously. Then go to your food pals, which are going to be your planting, your gathering, and your watering. And then if you want to, you can also do transporting. With all of these base tips, you shouldn't have any problem acquiring whatever resource you set up your base for. Now let's talk about the best mining pals in Palworld and rank them all. There are a ton of good mining pals in Palworld, so let's break it down by early, middle, and late game, starting with the Cativa. The Cativa is very good early game because of its multi-skills. It has handiwork, mining, transport, and gathering, which is very essential for your plantations early on. An added bonus is that all of these first early game pals for mining are really plentiful around the map, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding any. Next up, we've got the Rush Ore, who is really good if you just want to focus on the mining. He doesn't have any other skills, so he won't be bothered by doing any logging or anything else like that. He's just purely mining. An honorable mention for Fuddler here at your level 1 mining pals because he's so darn cute, and he's pretty useful because he has the handiwork, the mining, and the transport all level 1. I never really found him much until caves though, so the other two may be more accessible. Starting off our level 2 mining pals here, we've got Pen King. He's pretty accessible, but he does a lot, so sometimes it's hard to get him to just do mining, and he takes a lot of food to make satisfied. Combat is a great choice, however, because it also does gathering and transport. Combat is only available at night, so you'll have to do a little bit of searching, but I would prefer him over Pen King. Rounding out our level 2 list, we have Mud, my personal favorite of the bunch because it has a good assortment of skills and it's very easy to catch, mostly found in the mid game at the Anubis Desert, the Twilight Dunes. Also here is who I would consider to be the beginning of the end game pals, the Dig Toys, also conveniently located in the same place as the Muds. Reptyro is our next level 3 mining pal, found in the volcano, Mount Obsidian. Also remember that as you increase the mining level of these pals, like this Reptyro, the food meter is gonna go up. Honorable mention for Anubis here because it also has level 3 mining level. However, it's pretty hard to get unless you know what you're doing with breeding. If you need more help on that, check out my video guide of how to get Anubis on the profile. There's currently only 2 level 4 mining pals in the game, the Astagon and the Blazamut. Between these two, it's just whoever you can get and whoever you like better, because they're actually both found in the same spot. Now I'll just leave you guys with a few final tips and tricks to make your mining even more efficient. There are a couple of pals in Palworld that boost your efficiency while you ride them, like this Rush Ore, or that boost their efficiency in mining ores from your party as long as he's out, like the Dig Toys. This is done through the Pal Gear workbench, of course. Another important reminder is that if your pals aren't mining the ore, make sure you have the right mining level. 2 and higher is required for most of the ores in the game past regular stone. For example, the Cativa will not do that good against these ore and the coal mines like in this base that I showed you. And there you have it. That is what you all need to know in order to have the best possible mining experience you can in Palworld. You now have all the knowledge you need in order to stockpile resources for the end game with no hassle. If this mining guide was helpful for you, please leave a like and I'll catch you in the next video. But that's it for now. Subscribe and follow for more Palworld.